Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. We have an extra special guest here with us today, Bron Hansboro of the Flower Guy Bron, and he's going to be talking to us all about making luxury work for your authentic brand. This is such a great topic, you guys. We haven't had too many vendors on here that are in the luxury market actually for weddings. So Bron, this is super special. Thank you for joining us. Say hello real quick and then I'll read your bio. It'll be all awkward and weird.
I know, right? Well, hey everybody, it's so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right, guys, here is Bron's official bio. Bron is the chief creative at the Flower Guy Bron. He's a wonder of the world and a modern-day Renaissance man. He loves art, good wine, and great company. Oh, and of course, he loves flowers. His work with flowers is organic and his most natural expression. He lets the blooms whisper, and he listened. Therefore, it's not always rocket science, but sometimes it is, and he's happy to rise to the occasion. Bron lives by the simple principle, be your best self, and he encourages others to join him. And if you aren't just the sweetest, best kind of person that I want to be friends with after reading that bio,
thank you.
I don't know who is.
Thank you.
Yes. And so we're just really excited to ask you so many things today. And your brand, Bron, I was doing a little stalking on you before the podcast, looking at all your things, everything about you totally exudes joy and just bold color, and your expression is so beautiful. We love it. So tell us, how did you end up in weddings, specifically in florals? We want to hear the backstory.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a backstory, and I bet it's going to be a little unexpected.
Okay.
So, believe it or not, my professional preparation is all towards education. So, went to school to be a teacher, became an administrator, and hit a brick wall eventually. I just realized that, I was no longer in a place where the service to others was serving me. And so I had to make a very difficult decision. So, fortunately, when I was in college, I was exposed to flowers as a luxury for the first time. I was working for a caterer who also had a flower arm of their business. And so while I was bussing tables and, passing hors d'oeuvres at, lavish events, I was looking at these flowers and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, people actually have pretty flowers, not just grocery store flowers or, the flowers you pick up in a convenience store. So that sparked my interest in flowers as a luxury. And I made a commitment that whenever I owned my own home and I was able to host my guests, I was always going to have fresh flowers in my house. And so I kept that commitment to myself, and I was making the flowers myself, buying them from grocery stores or florists, whoever would sell single stems. And I was making the most hideous arrangements that you could ever imagine. They were absolutely, unsellable. There's nothing about them that I could sell today, but they made me feel good. They made my guests feel good. And eventually one of those guests who noticed the fresh flowers asked me if I would be willing to do the flowers for their wedding. And from a living room cocktail table arrangement and a nightstand arrangement, here we are doing a full wedding with no experience, no training whatsoever. So it started just like that. And as you can imagine, it looked just like that. A first timer with no experience doing a wedding. But fortunately, like I tell everyone, and it's even relevant to this conversation, as you grow your business, you will always be serving the clients that you're supposed to be serving in that season. So, there's no way that I would have been able to do a $20,000 or higher floral budget at that time. But that particular client and friend didn't have those expectations. So it was really perfect learning about the service of flowers. That's how it all happened.
My gosh, I love that. I feel like that's how we all start. It's just a friend is like, hey, I trust you on this. And you're like, I'll give it a shot. And then you just fall in love with it and it just snowballs from there, right?
Absolutely. From the first wedding to the second wedding was just as ironic. I was in Macy's shopping for jeans, and my prom date, my high school prom date, was on the other side of the rack. We hadn't seen each other in a very long time. And she's a wedding planner and also offered me my first professional wedding. And I still didn't have a contract and didn't have a consultation process, but she gave me the opportunity as well, and we rose to the occasion.
And is she somebody who's come back to you again since then? Like you have an ongoing relationship, or was that just kind of in the beginning?
Oh, no, absolutely. We went on from that first event to me being the primary referral. So
Wow.
she refers brides to me, couples to me all of the time. We shared our first studio space together. For 3 years, we were together in the same studio space. So we have a lasting relationship. And she's one of the vendors that I credit for starting my business. So it is a long lasting, time tested relationship.
That is so cute that y'all were prom dates too. Like, and then you went on to share a studio
Yes,
space for your
yes.
businesses. Like, how fun is that?
Yes.
What a throwback. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
So when you first started building this business, like obviously you had, quit 2 weddings right off the bat. Did you just decide to really go for it? Or did you kind of have like a plan in place before you got started? Like how did it go with like branding and naming your business? And what was your process like with that?
Well, I was totally unorthodox, but I think most of us start that way. I only know a few friends who are entrepreneurs that have a sure plan before they start. I think most of us stumble into it, and I'm no different. I literally went from designing flowers for my nightstand to designing flowers for weddings and learning as I went and just being observant. So for me, I always pay attention to what's going on around me. So even though my interest is in flowers, I also knew that I needed to know what was going on in my market. So it was important that I paid attention to other florists. I paid attention to other vendors in the wedding space in my local market. And I wanted to make sure that if there was a service not being offered, that I wanted to fill that gap, or if there was an aesthetic that I didn't see reflected as well as I felt like I could do it, then I wanted to be that vendor. So, in terms of my website development and my marketing, all of that was based on observation, doing market analysis, just not even like hiring anyone, just paying attention, opening my eyes and looking, and then trying to serve a segment or a niche within that larger market. And that's kind of how we got it all off the ground.
And remind us as well, where are you based? Like, where are you serving most of your clients?
Yeah, well, most of our clients are in the Richmond metropolitan area in Virginia. So we're Central Virginia in the state's capital. And then we also serve all of the DC market as well as the Maryland area, Hampton Roads, Charlottesville. We even have an event in December in Destin, Florida. So we can go wherever there are flowers, wherever there is either freight, air, or or boat transportation. We can figure it out.
Yes, I love that. And okay, Charlottesville, is that where Pippin Hill Farm is?
Yes, absolutely. Pippin
Okay.
Hill and Mount Ida are two of the largest, most premier properties in the Charlottesville area, and we've been privileged to frequent them. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so cool. I know that is like a goal of, I feel like I know a lot of Atlanta photographers that just want to be up at Pippin Hill Farm so bad.
It is definitely premier, definitely beautiful, and everything that I see there, it's always filled with so many talented vendors.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was stalking you before the episode, doing a little bit of homework.
Of course.
So
that's humbling. I love it.
I watched the video on your website, your little intro video, kind of about you and what you do. And you said something in that I loved so much, which is, we don't sell flowers, we sell experiences. Can you tell us how you came upon that, like that realization, I guess, and how you built that into your brand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. And really, it just rolled off of my tongue. So one of the things that a lot of folk wouldn't know about me is that just as important as the completed design is, we also feel like the service component and the experience that we're creating is as valuable. So for a while, we were learning through our consultations with our couples that guest experience was number one, more so than even decor. But I also realized how decor impacts guest experience. So it really was an opportunity for me to connect with our couple's overall goal, which is to host a lovely event and then also couple it in with the flowers. So really just trying to unify my objective and the couple's objective. And it really, at the end of the day, isn't as much about flowers as it is experience. And, people at different price points, people with different aesthetics can all have a beautiful experience regardless of the flowers. So that's really how it was birthed, and us selling experiences, not flowers.
No, I love that so much. And that's something that really resonates with me and my brand too. Like, I think you could swap in, like, we don't sell paper, we sell experiences or any invitations or whatever. I mean, for so many. And that's the distinction between, a good wedding vendor and a great wedding vendor who just like, they see that they want to take it to the next level and understand like that feeling you have at a wedding versus just like, it's pretty or whatever. But like the feeling that you get, you can explain it so much better. Like, I love you talking about how the decor impacts the experience. And it's not just something pretty to look good in photos, but it truly is to make the day something unique and for your guests to talk about and really show personality. And that's something that's just really cool.
That's what it's all about. I want people's events with us to be highly personalized. I want them to truly be a reflection of who they are as people, and connecting with that person as opposed to the transaction of the flowers makes it far more of an authentic experience for everyone.
Yeah. And it's more enjoyable too, because I feel like when you're just like, yep, you want pink flowers, great, here you go, versus like, well, let's talk about the why and let's tell your story with this and everything has meaning. And I really enjoy that part of the process. So I can imagine with flowers, it's similar too. It's just, how can you take this piece of their story and express it with florals, which is just so cool.
Absolutely. That is exactly what happens.
It's such a beautiful profession. I mean, flowers are just absolutely stunning at events when they're just done in this way of like grandeur. Like, it's really, really incredible. Like, I feel like they can make or break the shot in some ways, because when you see like an arbor where the couple's standing decorated in florals, it just elevates the whole entire thing. And so much more goes into florals than people realize.
I know. I like just have so much respect for florists because I'm like, y'all, your stuff is dying. Like, you can't reuse it. Like, it's just so stressful.
Yes.
You got to get it there.
Thank you.
Thank
you for relating. Yes. Thank you so much for attempting to relate to all of the things that go into the service of providing fresh flowers. But it's always a privilege to have the opportunity to exist in these spaces and to be the icing on many people's cakes. I'm aware with how impactful the floral portion of our service is on the overall impact of the event. So I'm crystal clear. And even to the point where when I know it's going to be a good shot, after the photographer takes the shot, I want to see it so that if there's anything that I can tweak, because again, I want to put the cherry on top. So you want to make sure that everything is as perfect as it can humanly be.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit too about, we know a little bit what the early days of your business look like, right? Like friends at Macy's hiring you for weddings and, like you said, the coffee table flowers or whatever you were calling them, like dining room table flowers. Tell us what your days kind of look like now with the weddings you're serving. And also, I want to hear the story behind the contraption on Instagram that shredded your flowers. Okay? Because I saw this video and I was like, I need to ask you what happened here. Because I'm not a florist, so I don't understand like what that was supposed to accomplish, but it was very funny. I was like, massacre. Oh, this guy's funny. Like, I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, it was so funny. So to answer your first question, yes, we kind of did touch on the earlier part of the business, but just to give a little bit more detail there, the early part of my business, I was actually juggling a professional career and entrepreneurship. So, it was a very, very tight rope I was walking in terms of being able to be in full service professionally to children and parents and teachers, while also being in full service to couples and my business. So, that was a bit of a juggle. But fortunately, we figured out, a balance to manage it all. But now, my days are more about understanding my clients, building my business, finding opportunities, and art directing. So although my hands are very involved in just about every step of the process, from the overall conception of the event, in art directing its execution, and engaging with the client. So for example, we'll have a consultation. I don't take the initial consultations anymore, but I do all of the proposal presentations. And that is really where the magic happens in terms of couples having an opportunity to see the potential of their event. And that is where I truly thrive. I thrive in the spaces where the creativity is being shared with the couple and their creative juices and energy about their event starts to change. And that's where we really start to really create the magic behind it all. So my days are more so filled with business development, growth, and just managing my team overall. So it's changed quite a bit from, having to process, having to design everything, having to deliver and set up everything, and having to break down everything. Now we have a lot more assistance, a lot more staff and help in the building. So I'm able to focus on being a true creative.
Yes, absolutely love that. Getting as many things off your plate as possible.
Yes,
how many people do you have on your team right now, Bron?
Right now, we probably have about 12 people on the team, and that is between processors, strikers, designers, people who come in and clean the glassware and reset. So it's a pretty robust team throughout most of October. Well, actually throughout most of wedding season. But then we do have weekends where we'll have, multiple events or very large events where we can have upwards of 30 to 40 people on the team in one given day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's an awesome model that we've developed as we've grown, which is really just to scale up based on need, as opposed to just, carrying so many people unnecessarily. So really each weekend depends on what our workload looks like.
Wow.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. I absolutely love that. And a lot of the audience who listens to us will occasionally bring on like one employee, maybe 2 or 3. And so it's really cool to hear from somebody who has built those processes to like expand as needed, especially like you said, it's really different when you have like 5 weddings in a weekend as opposed to 1. Like you can't be everywhere at once. Okay. So
and I do want to, before you say that, I do want to tell everyone that the workload that we experienced this season was due to a steady and firm commitment to seeing all of our COVID impacted couples down the aisle. So we had one weekend where we had 6 weddings in one weekend. That is not my normal zhuzh, folks. So I don't want anyone aspiring to drive themselves crazy like I did. But fortunately, we have the infrastructure to be able to scale up to accommodate it. So, just be mindful that is growth in terms of production. It is not ideal at all in terms of how to be a happy vendor. Okay. I just wanted to preface that.
No, that is a good little ditty there, because everyone's like, I want to do 6 weddings a week. I'm like, dude,
of
really
course
though?
you do. Only when you see dollars, but keep in mind that those couples finished paying in the middle of 2020. So it was a different ball game. So I'm glad to have completed the 2020 reschedules. We're finished. We got them all down the aisle.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, every single one.
I feel that like in my bones. I do.
Yes. So you were going to say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're totally fine, because I was going to bring it back to like the shredding incident, because I'm just like so curious what happened.
Yes. So I was on Instagram just like in a loop one day, and I pay attention to all of my florist friends that I admire and love their work. And I was coming across the feed of Sweet Root Village, their wonderful design group in the DC metropolitan area. And they had this amazing machine, and I had just finished the largest wedding of my career. And just thinking of like the 15 people that I had to bring on to process like 55,000 stems of flowers. So I'm like, how on earth, what is this thing? And they have this, it has these rotaries, and I'm, oh my God, I have to know what this is. So they posted the link, and I started YouTube, and I'm like, I have to have this device. So I purchased this processing assistant called a Whiz Stripper. Okay. Now, the first time I used the Whiz Stripper, I wasn't sure exactly how powerful it was. And I also didn't know that I needed to bolt it to the table. So I literally, looked at the tutorials and disregarded all of the cautions, wear the mask, bolt it to the table, clamp it to the table. None of that. I did what I wanted to do because I kind of do that often. And it literally sucked the entire bunch of roses all the way through and just blew them out the end like it was confetti. So, some people don't know that we're in a flower crisis, and getting flowers these days is a little bit difficult. So the fact and the thought that I just wasted through 25 perfectly beautiful stems of flowers, we had to make a joke of it not to cry. So that is what that was. So we just kind of laughed it off and went on about it. But that is my processing assistant called a whiz strip. And it is literally, it can do 5 jobs in one. It helps out a bunch.
Okay. So now it is bolted to the table. You have mastered it.
Well, I don't like to make firm commitments to things like that. And I like my tables. So I have a clamp. I have a series of clamps that I clamp it down pretty steadily. But yeah, I didn't want to dedicate a table to it. So yeah.
You sound like me, Bron. I'd be like, we'll just clamp it. It'll be fine.
We'll clamp it. Now I can move it. And now, my table can be whatever it needs to be when it wants to.
Yeah. I get it.
That is literally exactly like Cammy. That's so funny.
It is.
Yeah. Just clamp it.
Yeah. I'm the one that's going to be like buying a table to like screw it down. That's like totally my personality.
For something else. Like I like options. So
no, absolutely. I'm like, not my table.
I'm so glad you shared that on Instagram though, because it's such a real and funny moment that we all experience. I think like as we grow and try new things, it doesn't always go right.
No, not at all. And I've gotten so much feedback about it. And I'm sure there are dozens of designers that have since purchased the wish strip from that video, because I get a message every day. What is this thing called? What is this? I have to have it. So I've been sharing it left and right. I'm hoping it brings some processing ease to more of my floral friends.
You need to reach out to them right now and get an affiliate link, right?
You're absolutely. You know what? Yeah.
I'm not even a florist and I want one. I'm like, well, shoot, that sounds fun. Like, I don't know what's going to do.
Well, that's why I am strategic. Every time someone asks about it, I always say, I saw it on Sweet Root Village. Like that kind of stuff is important. Mm-hmm. It's important. I think in our industry, we're not even talking about that, but it's important. You get the value of it. People need to know.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you credit the original place that you found it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, and by the way, make sure you read the manual.
Yes. Don't do me, please, because you will have a bunch of roses stripped on the floor.
I mean, rose confetti does sound kind of fun too. It could be a market.
Yeah, it was fun.
It kind of satisfying.
Expensive. Right? Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's shift focus a little bit and kind of talk about the luxury aspect of a business, and specifically the word luxury, because I think this can cause such a specific reaction in people. Do you think that word still holds its weight, or are people overusing it? I've heard so many mixed things in the wedding industry about like people get weird sometimes with the word luxury. So I'm curious about your take.
Yeah, I'm totally weirded out by it. I know that personally, I have seen things that I consider luxury that are marked as luxury, and there's some things that I've seen marked as luxury that never in a million years I would personally consider luxury. I think it's just so specific and individual. So for me, luxury is something that you see, that you value, that either impacts your life in some way. Maybe it gives you an experience. Maybe it elevates something for you. But I think we have to be very careful with the word luxury, because what it does is, to me, it creates barriers. You have so many people in our industry who are aspiring to be like, to have different experiences with their businesses. And, we've created this hierarchy of luxury versus not luxury. And to me, it should be more of a focus on the service and the experience to get to the end result. And so for us, luxury to my firm has nothing to do with price point, has nothing to do with flower selection. It all has to do with how intuitive our service has served the client. So for us, it's like we don't have to bother our clients every couple of weeks about a design decision because we listen so well and effectively the first time. Now we know who they are. And like the Four Seasons knows that you're going to want the men on the pillow for turn down, we're able to provide that level of service to our couples, and they don't even know what they need because we've already anticipated it. So that's what luxury is to me. To other people, it can be several different things, but I do think that we should probably lighten up on the use of the word luxury and just focus on the service that we provide and all of the things that make that service unique. So that's my take on it. I think that we probably have started to overuse it quite a bit.
Yes, I think all of that is so good. And I think the one thing you said there that really struck me was anticipate their needs. And I think those 3 words alone define luxury so much because, to me, like a nap could be a luxury,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. I think that we really overthink it. When we hear luxury, we automatically think cars, houses, jewelry, furs, and, 7-figure weddings. And I'm like, okay, all of those things may be luxury to someone, but perhaps what about the company who's just getting started? What does luxury look like for them and their client? And, and really that's why the service of it all is so much easier to capture in the front end before you have the opportunity to serve the big ticket couple.
Yeah, I think that's super great. And I think a lot of people also think luxury and they just think that just means a dollar sign, or $3 signs or whatever. It's just, a number of what it needs to be. And so no one wants to be the non-luxury wedding vendor, right?
Right.
So you're like, how do I become luxury? Oh, I'll just charge more for my services. But it's not about the price point. It's like you're saying about the experience to get to there. And then once that experience, the price point will reflect that because it's so worth it. You're like, this is worth every cent of this because, my experience has been great. My hands I'm done. I'm having the best time. Like, this is so easy for the client. And that's luxury for me. It's just like, let me take it all off your plate. Like you're saying, anticipating their needs, all that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a bit of a catch-22 because I know that as I worked up in the stationery world, which by the way, Bron, like Cammie and I met doing wedding invitations. We met in a Facebook group.
Yeah. Wow, I love that.
That's like our history, but neither of us do it very much anymore. I wrapped up my final clients, kind of like my 2020 pushovers earlier this year, and took a little bit of a step back. And Cammie has one final client that she's trying to kind of wrap up.
I'm having a baby next year, or this year, I guess, was 2022 now. So very soon. So I ain't going to be dealing with clients. I'll tell you that much.
Yes. Well, and I appreciate you all knowing what you need to do for you. As a business owner, those type of decisions are hard to make at times, but you have to make a decision to serve you. It's no different than my decision to join the Flower Guy Bron full time versus, part time, so all those personal decisions are so important. I'm glad you all are making them.
Yeah, I mean, I started to get nervous because I wanted to work my way up into luxury weddings, right? Like, what does this mean? Luxury weddings. And then I started, I don't want to say that I was doubting myself. I was getting a little nervous about my capability to serve to such a high standard. I think that's what was starting to make me nervous because there is, like you keep saying, that level of service. And I'm glad, like you kind of said, I'm proud of myself that I was like, you know what? That maybe isn't what I'm trying to obtain here. Maybe there's other people who are better suited to that or serving that type of client. But also I was probably too in my head about what luxury meant. Luxury could have still been authentic to my brand at the time without me having to do X, Y, and Z website, this and that, blah, 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 to feel like I was accomplishing it. So
It happens. And it's all a process of personal development, and I think that, as we develop as people, our businesses naturally transition and change and shift, purpose and meaning. So I think that as long as we keep a good finger on the pulse of who we are as people and what we need to continue to feel served and to feel good, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We've kind of just been talking about like, how do we take luxury and make it like part of our brand while still being authentic and personal? And like, clearly that's something you've still done so well, because you're like, I do the initial, or not the initial consult, but the proposal part. Oh, wait, I'm getting it backwards. Not the initial proposal, but the consultation where you're sharing all the design. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, we got you.
The creative part. And that is just so amazing that you still get to be so close to each of your couples, even with such a huge team. And I feel like even just having that is almost a luxury level of service, because like you're getting to be, one-on-one with the designer. And I know that as a client, I would love that to just like talk and share the creative ideas. And I think that's really cool that you've done that.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's been a road to get there. Trust me. And even giving up the control and loosening the reins for my team to take those roles over has been, quite a steady commitment and ongoing development for me to continue to let it happen. But it's the only way that I can continue to love what I do and continue to grow the business, is if my calendar is able to be filled with things like this, and meetings with other people, versus, having to meet with every single person 2 and 3 times. It's just, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I can imagine I feel like with your team, I know you said you had like 40 people on some weekends. I'm like, do y'all wear name tags or what? Because that is crazy. But the level of trust you have to have in those people that they can execute your vision perfectly. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah, it is definitely a development area. Like, we're always growing and developing in that area of our team's capacity. And, I just have to continue to focus on allowing leaders to lead. I continue to set clear expectations. And then also the other key is just always preparing them, equipping them with all of the tools to be successful. And if you've done those things, then if they're not successful, then you have to kind of reevaluate your process. So we've just been very fortunate to have a team of people who understand the rigor that is required to represent our brand.
Yeah. And so when you're working with your team to like really grow that experience, how are you communicating with them? Like, hey, this is the level of luxury, I'm doing air quotes right now, that we're aspiring to. How do you make sure, like, what are things are you putting in place to make sure that experience is consistent throughout, no matter who the person is talking to on your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best things that I've done is kind of breaking my business or my team into different divisions that all have their own zone of geniuses. And all of the different divisions don't necessarily interact the same way. So for example, the designers is one leg. And then we have those who are on a strike team who come and break our weddings down. So those teams have their own leaders that are all conveying the expectations at all times. So in terms of design, of course, I'm the art director, but I do have a lead designer that is actually on the floor, that is circulating and making sure that my design expectations are met. And then I'm able to look big picture at how everything will come together. So I think it's more I do, we do, you do approach. So a tell, show, and then kind of guide. So I think keeping that approach is really a elementary way, but a very effective way of making sure that the expectations are established and that they're a little easier to maintain, because we're consistently reinforcing them throughout the process with our couples.
I love that. I love how everything is like a well-oiled machine. Everything is in the place that it should be. Now, all that being said,
outside of my desk, let me be clear, my desk is in shambles.
That means you're a genius.
Looks like the bottom of your purse.
I would love if you could share with our audience maybe a situation you had that was a learning experience for you. Because obviously you've gotten where you are today by taking this path, right? Jumping in head first. Probably making some mess ups along the way. So would you be willing to share maybe an example, something you could think of that you're like, oh yeah, once that happened, never again,
Yes, absolutely. So I'll tell you one of the more dramatic, like laughable ones. So I have learned the hard way to always over engineer. So there was a time when I would just kind of take the risk. It's like, okay, it's going to be an outdoor ceremony. One sandbag per leg is enough. Yeah, right. Until my ceremony structure blew 10 feet in the air and 20 feet away as I'm watching, a storm system come roll over the mountain. So from things like that, I have learned to always be prepared, never assume that nothing's going to happen. Something will always happen. Even if I'm just dropping off boutonnieres, corsages, and bouquets to a bridal or a couple's suite, I always come with additional ribbon, additional pins, additional stems in my car. I don't bring them in, but I'm always prepared for the oops. And so I would just say, never underestimate the impact of an oops. And the quicker that you can rebound from the oops, the better your day will be. So over-engineer, over-prepare, overpack, and assume that something will go wrong.
Yeah, there you go.
Like positive thinking for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Positive reinforcement. Yes, that's it. The structure. I saw the storm coming and I said, oh my God, all of that work is about to go airborne. And just like the second it came out of my mouth, there it went. And the couple never knew because I did have extra things and, we were prepared for it.
That's good. I'm glad that everything was able to be reined in and that the display wasn't like permanently gone.
Yes. Tell me about it.
Yeah. When we interviewed wedding planners, I got married. Both Cami and I got married back in 2015. She got married in June. I got married in September. We wouldn't have known each other at the time yet. But of course, like my mom and I were interviewing wedding planners. And one of the questions we asked was, what is the craziest thing you've had go wrong, right? Because we wanted to hear like honest stories from vendors, that honesty side of things. And one lady had the sprinklers go off on the golf course when they were like,
that's perfect.
Getting married.
That's a movie scene right there.
Yeah, literally. And she said that everyone, so that they went off. It was like actually after the ceremony during like the reception, and that some of the family members had been drinking a little too much. And so a fight broke out, and then they were like wrestling each other in the muddy grass because it's wet.
This is a movie. Awesome. This is not.
I'll tell you, that is an awesome time. And hopefully they had videography and photography services for that wedding.
That's great.
Because can you imagine the pictures? You'll never forget that day.
I know.
That's classic.
I sure hope they were still able to make the best of all that situation. But we really do like deal with the craziest things that happen in this industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Bron, you are running such a tight ship and I love it. So do you have advice for maybe exercises we can personally do, all of us like listening today, to help us define what luxury means to us and our clients? Like where should we start in our headspace to kind of unpack that?
Yeah, well, I think unpacking the misconceptions of what luxury has been to you. For example, for me, I had a very, similar industry understanding of what luxury was. I thought that it was simply price point, dollar bills. How much money did it cost? And so I had to shift my priorities to the things that were important to me first. And even if I wasn't a florist, I appreciate good service, whether it's housekeeping, whether I'm in a department store and, how I'm greeted and the things that I'm offered. All of those things are so important to me. So instead of me focusing so much on the on the luxury price point side of it, I focused on my interpretation of luxury, which was the service. And so I think that the headspace required to get there is to just unpack your definition, disprove your definition, and really identify what luxury is to you. If your client is generally asking for one thing, figure out how to get every bit of the juice from that berry, from that thing that these clients are typically asking you for that no one else does. And you being the one person to offer that specified service or that specific service makes you luxury because you're the only person that has it. It's almost like FOMO. So I really want you to just challenge your own beliefs about something. And if that's not serving your current client, figure out what your clients want, what you're passionate about, and align your services to reflect those things. And that to me is personalizing luxury for you and your client.
Oh, amazing.
Yay.
Yes,
Jim.
that is so good. And, sometimes I feel like when people hear like, oh, we just have really good service, like that's going to be luxury, in the most like basic term of that idea. And people hear like, oh, I need to have good service for my clients. And then they think, oh, I need to give them all this stuff for free so that they're happy and they have a good experience. And can you speak a little bit to that having good service isn't necessarily like giving away everything for free or doing extra stuff without getting paid for it? Because I think, the people pleaser side of wanting to be that, like, create that good experience and you want them to not have any pushback can get a little hairy, a little tricky when it comes to still creating a good experience while respecting your boundaries as a vendor.
I'm glad you said the word boundaries. And to me, the nicest department stores never close at 8 or 9. They're closed at 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock even. So you can't even get off work. The average person can't get off work and walk into Bloomingdale's if they work a 9 to 5. It just doesn't happen. So for me, it's not about always being available. It's not always about, like you said, offering the freebies and the discounts. That is not luxury. That truly discounts the value of your service. I have found that couples would much rather have clear expectations to have with their vendors. They'd much rather know what to expect. They'd much rather know what they're buying. They'd much rather have peace of mind. I think that focusing on those things and the consistency of your communication, the clarity of your communication, and the delivery of your deliverables. So those are the things that I think are a lot more of an expression of luxury than saying, oh, if you sign with me, then you'll get a gift bag today. And then, if you book this service within this month, then you'll get a discount on that service further down the line. So I think that, people that are truly looking for their definition of luxury in a service is more so looking for clear expectations and a well-managed experience. So I think that, we can really shift our thoughts from luxury being overgive, because it just really isn't. When you go to, buy a luxury good, you purchase that luxury good and good service comes with it. And that's really it. They're not saying come back next month because, your bag will be on sale or another, accessory will be on sale next month. They don't often do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to buy the Chanel bag because it comes with the free welcome gift of a champagne bottle, that's a great whatever, but that's not like, oh, you sold me. Now I'm going to buy this because, I just think sometimes we can get in our heads about that as vendors, especially in the stationery industry, with wanting to get freebies to try to get that client or, it is hard to define boundaries when it comes to artistic things. And, as I'm sure you understand too, like how much does it cost to do this design versus this design? And you're like, these are all like still a ton of work, whether it's, simple or extensive.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the minimal things take more time. So just understanding that.
And honestly, I think people value what they pay for much more than things that they don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about kids and toys, the toys that they have to save up for and purchase themselves, they actually play with. But the Christmas gifts that they just get, in excess, they play with the boxes. So, it's very, very similar approach. People that are spending money for an event will value what they pay for. That makes it even more exclusive for some people, the value, the price that they paid for it, or knowing that they had to sacrifice to have it. It just makes it even better.
Yeah. It is so true, because we have a community called the A to Z Directory where we help a lot of people who are, there are a lot of times people start on Instagram. Where'd you get that? Where'd you find that? How are you doing this? And this community kind of answers that question. And it comes with the Facebook group. And we've realized our engagement in the Facebook group is so good because people are paying to be there. So they value it differently than a freebie Facebook group. And I don't even know if you're on any Facebook groups, Bron. You're probably like way beyond that.
Oh, well, I don't know. I actually, one of the most active groups that I'm a part of is a Facebook group. I'm a floral focus group. And when I tell you, I'm not always as active as I like, but I do see the post and I'm like, oh, I'm glad someone asked that question. Now I can get
You're a lurker. I got it. I'm a lurker.
I can lurk sometimes. Some forums, I'm more active in, but there's some I'm just kind of like, what they talking about today?
Yeah. What's the tea, right? Or like, what's going
that
on
part?
today?
Yeah, we all need a little tea, a little energizer. We've been knocked off our feet for a while, so we're glad to that there's tea to be served.
Yes. And tell us too, I would love you to elaborate on that. You touched very briefly earlier about, if you all don't know, there's been some flower issues, supply chain.
Yes,
Which,
supply
like,
chain.
supply chain for like wedding stuff has just been kind of a disaster in the sense of the word for so many people. Tell us specifically what you guys are dealing with as florists. I'm very curious to hear what that looks like for you.
Yes. Supply chain has been an absolute challenge. I'm not going to call it a disaster simply because we have been fortunate enough to be able to serve all of our families. So all of our couples have been well served with the majority of the flowers that I anticipated, and all of their expectations have been exceeded. However, the journey to get there has come with many headaches for my team. So what essentially happened is, back in 2020, a lot of the countries that our flowers are grown in were impacted even more so than the United States by COVID. And, they weren't able to harvest. They weren't able to sow their crops. And so ultimately, there just weren't flowers available. So we were having to source flowers from all across the world, which isn't usually that far off, but we've had to go through some pretty far extents and jump through quite a few hoops to make sure that we were able to secure product. But in addition to flowers, even things like votive candles, things like glassware, all of the pretty things that make our tablescapes complete are all also delayed. So we found ourselves ordering all of things that we can find when they're available. And then, when it's not available, we're just having to make some thoughtful substitutions. So we've been pretty fortunate, but it has definitely come with a few challenges throughout the season.
Yeah. And honestly, the key there is just perseverance, kind of like you said,
yes,
of like we're pursuing every option possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, one of the things we've also done, and I took a bunch of pride in it, is that none of our couples knew from us that there was a flower shortage. That's all part of that luxury intuitive services. I already know that our couples have enough things to be worried about, especially planning a wedding in the midst of a global pandemic. The last thing that they needed to worry about were my industry specific concerns that they paid me to handle. So instead of, looping them into all of the shortages and supply chain, I simply kept the communication consistent only about things that they needed to know, logistics at whenever that conversation needed to be had, reassurance whenever it needed to be offered. But at no point did I bring them into the drama of sourcing flowers. It's just not a space for my couples to need to be in.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think we've all gotten a little too comfortable with being honest with our clients sometimes. And that is sometimes a case of like oversharing. Like you're trying to protect yourself, but you're not really benefiting your client by being like, I'm sorry, it's going to take an extra week for me to get back to you because I'm just so slammed right now because I have all of these reschedule. That's like not helping.
That part. Like, stop it, y'all. Stop. Be the professional vendor that they thought they hired in the beginning.
Yeah. You don't actually have to be professional. You just got to be a front-facing professional. The back end, the desk is messy, right? Like, they don't need to see that part.
It's messy.
Yeah. You turn your camera up where it doesn't show the desk, and they get the perfectly polished, poised version, and then behind the scenes you are making it happen one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And they don't need to know that because it is going to stress them out. And when it comes to luxury, I think no stress. So
there you go.
Okay, we have a couple more questions here that we want to squeeze in for you before we kind of like hit our hour mark, which is kind of like the magic time normally for our interviews. We don't want to take too much of your time, but I would love to hear from you what your best tips are for creating authentic connections and relationships with other vendors. This sounds like this is something you've done really well and excelled at. And I want to know all the tricks. And I know that, and not tricks, right? It's just like, it comes down to being genuine.
It's all common sense. Yeah, it all comes down to common sense, right? I'm so glad you asked that question. My team and I are always perplexed, but also aware of what's happening everywhere we go when we're representing our brand. And one of the things that we are all very sensitive to is communication. We're sensitive to our verbal and nonverbal communication as it relates to fellow vendors everywhere we go. So I say that to say is we open our mouths and we speak And when everywhere we go, we don't just speak to the planner. We don't just speak to the DJ. We don't just speak to the venue person. We speak to the people that are setting the tables. If it's not us, we speak to the folk that are washing the sinks and the toilets and taking out the trash. We speak and communicate to everyone. And what I have found is that a simple conversation past the hi and a bye, when we get past the interaction, is we're in our own businesses, we're heads in the dirt, and we're just focusing on us. But when I get out into the community and when my team gets out there, we really want to open up and invite people to get to know us. And by doing that, we're able to tear down the boundaries and those barriers that a lot of people are never able to break through because we don't feel a common thread. There's no sense of relationship there. And so simply by having a conversation, we've been able to norm our market and to have people feel comfortable with us in their spaces and for us to feel comfortable being in their spaces. And because of that level of comfort, we can now focus simply on the service as opposed to the other things that are barriers to service. How can you properly serve in a space, in a ballroom, for example, with a caterer you don't have a rapport with when there's a time crunch to get the room set up? We have to have a relationship and understand the mission, which is the service to our clients and getting this room flip done in 45 minutes or less. And the only way that can happen is if you understand what my mission is and I understand yours and we're working together. So all of those authentic relationships that we've built have all started with a simple conversation past hi. Hi, how are you today? And then the answer to the how are you today might influence how my follow-up response might be, which then will turn into a conversation and we might be going through the exact same thing. And now we're friends. So I think it's just all about communicating with people, understanding who they are, where they come from, and making sure that you also surround yourself with people that have the same common mission, which is service.
Yes. Okay. Anyone who's listening to this right now, you need to go back 2 minutes and listen to that again. Literally, Bron just preached right there, and you guys need to go back, listen to it again.
Thank you. You know, we work out of the Richmond market all the time. And of course, we have challenges everywhere we go. I think, you know, as the world changes, as we all evolve, you know, some barriers will be, you know, easier to overcome than others. But recently we were working in a much larger market and we took our same service standard, which is speaking and being kind and gracious to everyone, to this bigger market, a historic ballroom in a very, very large city. And so when we're walking, I call it the bowels of the venue, you know, the behind the scenes, you know, no one sees the service corridors, right? And so as we're coming through the corridors, we're just speaking and we're smiling and we're so excited to be there. And you can see other vendor teams just looking like, we don't talk. Like, what are you doing talking? We don't talk. And so by the end of the day or end of the evening, you could see, you know, people like wanting to pass us in the hall and be like, hey, how's it going? You hanging in there? So by the end of the event, like we had really created conditions for communication for the entire vendor team, not just our team. So just doing that, it makes a big difference in supporting everyone on the day of and knowing that we're all working towards the same objective.
Yeah, you are setting the stage, and I love that. You guys are like being the change you want to see. You are making an impact too on those people's lives, like with more than just the hello. You remind me of I don't know if you've watched Ted Lasso, but Ted Lasso on Apple TV, he talks to everyone, anyone and everyone who will start a conversation. He will be so friendly. I feel like you have clearly exactly the same approach, and that's magical. It is, and I've just feel lit up talking to you today, to be honest. You kind of like radiate it. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. One of the things, and I'll work this in quickly, one of the things in my personal development journey that has become a paradigm for my life is making sure that people are seen. You know, everyone wants to feel seen in some space. And that simple hello, that simple follow-up to a simple hello really can help people arrive on the right side of the bed. It can change how they were feeling. And I go out of my way to make sure that people feel touched by us and by me. And so, you know, if we can do that in the event space, then I feel like we've started a legacy of change. And again, a change and a commitment that we want to see more of. So hopefully we're doing that. And thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay. I feel like we're did we go through all of our questions? I feel like I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Yes, I could too.
We have almost gotten through all of them, but Cami, I think like question 10 and 11, I still want to potentially ask to wrap
talking
things
about
up.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. So obviously you do some education as well. So are you still doing the one-on-one mentorships on top of your speaking engagements?
Yes, absolutely. Our one-on-one mentorships are probably one of my favorite services that we offer. It gives me an opportunity to truly peel back the layers of vendors' businesses, in particular in the floral space. But honestly, the business side of things applies to just about any business. And so I really want to understand the personal objectives, the business objectives, so that we can make sure that everything aligns, that your marketing aligns with your visuals, and that your elevator spiel aligns with the client that you want to attract. And so we focus a lot of attention on our one-on-ones and making sure that businesses are arriving at the final destination as a complete product, and focusing again, redirecting from the impression of luxury to the true definition of luxury for you and your business. So I absolutely love our one-to-ones and the experiences that we get to have with those businesses.
Okay, amazing. And so where would people find you? Like if they just want to follow you and connect with you, either book a mentorship call, just stay in touch. Can you list off the website, your Instagram, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Where all of our handles on social media are going to be at The Flower Guy Bron. However, if you want to send an inquiry through our website, there's also a link on the website for workshops and mentoring. So if you were to send a direct message through our website, we'll definitely get a conversation started. And with me being a former educator, we're really experts at tailoring the learning experience to your learning needs. And so the more transparent you are about where you want to grow is the better opportunity we have to serve you specifically in those areas.
Wonderful. And our final question, because you are one of our first episodes of 2022, which, guys, this is being recorded in October, but it's airing in one of the first episodes of 2022. I know we're asking you to think a little bit farther ahead here, but going into the new year, what is your biggest intention for this year? Either something personal you want to accomplish, something within your business. We would love to know.
Absolutely. Well, this is twofold, personal and business. So I am working in a space where gratitude has to flow in both directions. That is with everyone and everything that I encounter, whether it's experience, designing a wedding that everyone else would say yes to. I have to feel confidently that the relationship, the gratitude flows in both ways. I'm not just a sticker price. I'm not just your florist. I am your partner. And the gratitude for what I do and the gratitude for what you do for me has to always flow in both ways. So I am only seeking relationships and experiences where we can all appreciate what we're doing for each other. And that is the only way it can be moving into 2022. I think that time has become more valuable than ever, as we've seen how short life can be in certain situations. So I have to only be in grateful relationships.
I love that. Such a great note to end on.
Yes, that is perfect. Oh my gosh, what a fun conversation. I think our audience is going to have so many nuggets to take away from this, especially when it comes to the whole experience side of things and just how to really serve your clients and what that actually looks like, and not just what we might think it looks like.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
Mm-hmm. All right, Cami, I'll let you do our housekeeping.
Okay. Well, you guys, if you love this episode, obviously screenshot it, post it to your Instagram stories, tag all of us. Let us know what you learned from Bron, because he has so much wisdom to share. And of course, if you have more questions, you can always ask them at bizbirthdaybash.com/Q&Cake, and we will answer them in our Q&Cake episodes, where we take questions from you guys and try to answer them as best we can. Always a delight, always so fun, always chaotic. And then it is your turn, if you are wearing a blue shirt, to leave a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Actually, whatever color you're wearing, just leave a review. That's what we want. If you're
wearing a shirt today.
If you're wearing a shirt at all today, which would not be my husband, because he's always walking around with no shirt on. So everyone except for Alex, It's like the running joke. I was like, does your husband ever wear a shirt? But anyway, leave a review, you guys. A 5-star one, obviously. And yes, we love you guys. Thanks, Bron, for coming on. It's been an awesome time meeting you and getting to know you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yep. We'll let you know when all of this goes live, and I know everyone's going to love it. So, all right, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Well, ladies, thank you.
Yes, of course. It was so fun. All right, everyone. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys. Seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best, you guys. Everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.